The I put this together. I guess you all figured it out. It was me that was doing this tonight, right? Based on the email I sent you. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
right. And you know, it's I think DC had the idea because I tried to rope him into doing a presentation, and he immediately lassoed me, and I thought, okay, I'll kick it off. And these are it's a pretty brief video. I'm video. No, there's no video. It's a pretty brief presentation. And I would imagine most of you are pretty familiar with weathering and what have you. And there's a boatload, a plethora of YouTube videos that are so good. But I saved the best slide for last because this is a masterful piece of work. I think it was done with more than just powders. But with that said, let me see if I can pull this little baby up. Okay, there we go.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So, yeah, these are what you might recognize as Mantua cars.
Okay.
And a lot of the cars that I have were I picked up through a friend of mine out in Michigan and started painting some of the ones he gave me. And I had a boatload of my own. And these were the first ones I started to really do any weathering with. So I start off with these, and we'll get into briefly talking about a couple of BTS cars that I uh, did some weathering on and I scratch built. Uh, you all probably heard of George Celios, and this man was probably the inspiration when I started looking at weathering, and this was years ago. And he as you can see, his depth of uh, weathering is like his signature. Although I did see a DVD of him, of one of which I have, and he was saying that he thinks he might have overdone it himself because I think one of the criticisms he gets is that he overdoes it. But I frankly like it because it gives such character and depth.
Oh,
Um, so this was one of my iconic inspirations for thinking about how to weather what I do. And the book is on the left, and that's one of his DVDs on the right. I have both. The DVDs, if anybody's interested, I'd be glad to send them to you if you want to check him out, his work. And he does some really great clips on how he does some of his details, like how he made broken glass, newspapers, how he dirtied his streets, made debris. He's very good, and it's very simple stuff. So anyhow, if you're interested, let me know. So these are the basic materials that I was going to talk about, and like from a real basic standpoint, just some powders, pastels, chalk, some of the applicators, and there's always a little bit of liquid that's required either to remove or to give it a little bit of a wash look. And like I said, there's YouTube, and there are some excellent YouTube videos. So if you're interested in uh, really doing some work with your models, I'm hoping Charlie Taylor shows up because I plan on bringing a bunch of these pastels and powders down with me. And while 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 he's in bed at night, I'm going to be going up to the layout, and he's going to have some transformed rolling stock. Um, Doc O'Brien's, actually, many of you have probably heard of most of these. I only worked with Doc O'Brien's because I've got such great results with it. I didn't see a need to do any of the others. Although, Pan Pastels gets a lot of good press. I didn't even know Woodland Scenics had stuff. Also, Bragdon got some good press. And just going in the internet, I found those folks, Tamaya and Vallejo. And then these are some really obscure ones that I never heard of. Although I know about Humbrol Paints, one of the things I've found is some of these folks have a niche. Like I think Black Diamond is focused on earth tones. I think Woodland, the WW Scenics is World War II. There's a video with that as well, and others focus on wargaming. So a plethora of options to play with if you're interested in going down this path. And here's just a shot of what you'd find in O'Brien's box of goodies. Lots of browns, and then this variety of brighter tones. And when I first got this, I couldn't figure out how I would even be using white or blue. But after actually just experimenting, because all of this for me was just a big experiment, a lab adventure. And the whites really do come into play very poignantly, in the sense that it really gives some depth and a sense of the weathering. The blue, since the WNA is primarily the dark, what's the dark blue? Slate blue. Yes, the slate blue. That came in handy. And just out of the blue, I chose to make the Georgia Railroad cars a green. So I used some of these. Of course, the browns can used in a variety of ways, and you'll see some examples in a second. Chalks and pastels. The one I chose was New Pastel, primarily because they are grays. And as you just saw in O'Brien's, there's no grays, although, you can mix these quite easily in a little tray and come up with a gray from the white and black. And then these are other companies I never heard of, except Tamaya, of course. And there's more than these as well. But I thought if you were really looking to experiment or explore what's out there, these would be some of the ones I would recommend. And that's what your New Pastel looks like. Such a nice variety of grays, and there's almost a blue tincture to some of these. And as you might know, the way to get the chalk off of these is to just take the stick and just shave it with a blade into a little container. I use a larger container that's maybe 4x6, so I can put several shades in and then mix them till I get the kind of tone or color that I'm looking for. And this is another one. This just had a whole plethora, like 48 brilliant colors in here. So there was a lot to play with, and it was easy to get sidetracked. I made some pretty crazy cars, which I didn't take any pictures of, with some pretty crazy colors that, I don't know, maybe would work, but I thought they were more cartoonish than prototypical. Applicators. I think Micromark makes these, or these come in like a CVS or a Walgreens. It's a nice pointy, cotton swab tip, and then all the way over to the right. Matter of fact, I think all three of these, maybe all four of these, are applicators for beauty products for ladies. Frankly, I didn't use any of those. I used just a couple of standard brushes, and I found the one that I liked the best was this one that had an angle. It just seemed to apply the dry colors in a way that was more appealing for me. And then this one I use also, and they're both on the stiff side. And when I've applied these, at first I would load it up on the brush and put it on the car, but I find as soon as the brush would hit the car, that would be a distinct spot. So what I started doing is I would just lightly touch the brush, like in a stippling manner, just a couple of 2 touches, just to let the powder fall off, or I wouldn't even touch the body of the car. I would just take the brush and kind of flick the powders on there and gently start to brush them in, so I wouldn't overdo it, because it's real easy to get a lot of color in there when you don't want to. And of course, you can always take a brush dip it in some water. What I would do, I just put some spit on my finger and just wipe it, and that would pretty much tone it down or remove it. Um, let's see. So taking one of classic Mantua car, uh, I just took off the decals, removed all the paraphernalia around the car, and then I cut away the molded castings, like the hand grabs and what have you, on one of them. A lot of them I just left it because when I put the powders in, you couldn't really tell, and I wasn't about to go back and rebuild these cars. I was just looking to create a decent roster and a stable of rolling stock. And then I would just paint the color that I was going to use for that line. So with these, this would have been a by Tamaya. It is the gosh, LeBron. You remember what that one was? I think I might have said something about it in here. Let me. Uh, I should have. It's going to be in here. The color that I used, which is the closest to a dark slate blue that I have found. Field gray,
Blue.
I think it is.
Pale
Still
blue.
blue.
Pale
Field
blue.
blue. Thank you, gentlemen. So this is what it looked like on the left, and by the time I was done, this is what it came out to look like. And I was part of this. I was thinking, if I was working on the railroad, where would I see most of the marks? And the one thing I don't like about this is I think I was a little bit too heavy on the earth, especially around the ladder, maybe over by the grab irons. But I just wanted. I'm thinking, if somebody's going up and down, they got dirty shoes and what have you. Certainly on the sill, it would be a little bit darker. Um, and then with the boards, I started using some of that blue and some of that white just to give it different tones. Now this is on plastic. It doesn't look too bad. So I was figuring, the dirt and what have you and the dust is probably going to be lower on the car, and it would be sitting on top, like on this door on the cross brace. Maybe not so much up top on the top of the door and above at the top of the sidewalls below the roof. And then with respect to the roof, um, this was black and gray, and then I used some of the lighter brown pastels to give a sense of rust. And I think there's a rust pastel in there, but it was a little bit too heavy, just to give it that weathered look. This is like one of the first ones I did. And that's just oh yeah, it is. Dark slate blue to my field blue, right? At decals. Of course, I always dull coat the decals. And then the thing I love too about the pastels or the powders is it helps dull the letters, because as you know, with a lot of these decals, they're so bright white, and they can be very delicate. Because sometimes what I like to do is take an X-Acto, a brand new number 11, and run it between the boards to cut open the letters, to make it look like it's more a part of it than just a decal sitting on the side. But what I find is if I put enough of the weathering on here, it'll help blend it. And if the cuts don't work as well as I would have liked, at least they've been blended as reasonable as possible without damaging it or completely covering it. So if you're doing operations, people can still see what the number and the lettering are on the car. Here's a water tank I took, again, Mantua, and stripped off the decals, and this was a green. And just to highlight the stakes, I just chose to put some of the browns on there for the dirt, and there's like 3 or 4 different earth tones. And with Georgia, of course, it's a little bit more on the red side. So with most of the wheel sets, I took a lifelike rust and just painted the insides of the wheels, and just touched up on the trucks some of the dirt. And it's tough to tell here, but there's more rust down below. And these are more of the earth tones, just to show some kind of distinction. And here's an example of where I got this thing so bad. This car was actually number 358, but the decal got so screwed up. I'm trying to hide the two numbers so everybody sees it's just the number 5. So for those of you guys that'll be coming up here, this is going to be one of the cars in the next operation sessions. So you got a heads up. It's a number 5. Don't get distracted with those other two things on there. And then we did that build that Bernie suggested a couple of years ago, where we build a car. And so I chose this Adams Express, and I could not find fonts like this anywhere. So I just used some dry transfers. And you know, even with this car facing me like this, I still got the dang thing backwards. I put the Adams Express name on the right side. I tell you, sometimes I think I'm dyslexic and I'm unconscious. God bless. Yeah, you know. So anyway, I picked up a photo from the big museum out in California near Sacramento. They had an Adams Express, and it was a bluish green varnish. So that was the attempt, is to replicate that. But when I'm looking at this car, I'm still going to do some more, I think, with the white. It looks like a new car that's kind of dirty. And the other thing I wanted to show here was that I left the beams in this swing truck on the right a little bit lighter and these darker, as though this was a rebuilt truck. And that's frankly because the one I had in there before, I was working on, and it's a Shapeways, and the dang thing broke. So I thought, okay, I'll fake it. I'll just pretend that there's a new truck in there. Then with the roof, there's a couple of ways to do this. With BTS, which is this roof, although it's a scratch build, I used the BTS roof. It's paper, and it takes the paint really well. And I wanted to give the idea of a tin effect. And of course, although there's pastels on here, a lot of this is a rust wash. And the other thing that's cool to do, I think LeBron turned me on to it, was you paint the roof, the base color. And let me see, what did we do? I forget. LeBron, you're going to have to help me. But we use rubber cement. And then you paint over top of the rubber cement. So you'd put a little bit of rubber cement in different places where you'd want to expose what's underneath. And then you can peel back that last layer of paint that you put on there, and what's underneath will get revealed. I think it was probably, you put the rust down, then you put the rubber cement on top. And then when you paint the roof a color, like say it's blue, you can peel it back, because I've got some up in the layout that I should have put on here. It looks like it's actually paint peeling.
Yeah.
Right. Got it. All right. And let's see, next one. Okay. This is the last slide of this, and this is LeBron's, and it's a BTS kit, and this is just a real stellar model and a paint job that I think is remarkable. The thing that stood out for me is he really makes a distinction in his journals, where, you know, you're going to see rust where you typically see rust, and where you wouldn't. And then the varying colors on the sides, where it really does look like this car has been through the war. LeBron, you want to say a couple of things about your technique to weather this?
Yes. I'm modeling 1863, so I'm thinking by that point, the Western Atlantic cars are in very bad shape. And so I painted the locomotive, the car, and I weathered it with craft paint. The craft paint gives a very dry brushing, gives a very flat finish.
What was the original color? Was it that blue? That's a
That field blue, Tamiya field blue.
Okay.
And Then, as I say, I used some craft colors, some blues, and weathered it with them, and
Right.
so I thought it turns out I like the way it looks. It looks weather beaten, worn
Yes,
out.
it does. Yes. The thing to it, one of the comments when I'm looking at other videos about weathering, some of them say you start at the top and then you gradually pull down the powders below. But again, I'm looking at uh, what what's the terrain that it's going through, and I'm thinking for the most part, a lot of the weathering, or at least from a dust and dirt standpoint, is going to be down below. And then depending upon what your roof is, um, you're going to see like what LeBron's got here is maybe some rust. So you could use powders or pastels as well as the dry brushing. Let's see. Yeah.
In Georgia, the red clay in North Georgia gets on everything,
Right.
and it covers everything.
Right. Yep. 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 Yeah, I've got it on parts of the layout that I was never intending to have it on there, and it's still there. Good. All
That
right.
boxcar number 5,
I don't remember what the number is. I'd have to look at the other side. No, it's a larger number than 5.
Right. I mean, the way you have, boy,
Wow.
those letters are so weather beaten. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay.
I've
How
got
did you achieve that with the letters, LeBron?
they're decals, and the wash is going over them. I did like Tom does, take a X-Acto blade and cut the decals,
Yeah,
then go back over it with a solvent set and a wash of the blue, real light blue wash over it. So when I start weathering, the car looks pristine, brand new, and then I weather it. One of the I use various shades of blue, different vendors, because I know that blues particularly fade, and so all the cars are going to be a different shade of color. And
Yeah, that's what I appreciate most is just my gosh, and you have individual boards that stand out very clearly. Yeah, that's a really nice model. This is BTS, right?
yes,
That's an unusual grab iron on the roof. Is that a homemade job?
probably.
Right.
good job on those broken boards too.
Yeah.
That window is great.
The window?
Yeah, quote unquote. You can
Oh.
see the skeletal framing through
Yeah.
the dilapidation of the side of the car.
Yeah.
Looks straight off of a photograph.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cars on the Western Atlantic were notorious for having boards broken by passengers wearing gray uniforms.
Right. Right. Good. Cool. All right, stop that.
Has anybody in the group tried to use sponges for weathering like Jensen does?
Um, yeah, but not with any thoroughness. I was just testing it and I didn't like it. I liked the control you'd have on a smaller pointed applicator. Although he's done some great work with his. I was gonna say that's another one if you want to watch somebody doing weathering, Jason Jensen. Any
Speaking
questions?
of weathering, I like the job on the car shed behind you, Tom.
I know, man, that killer.
Look at that rough.
That's just foam board with brick sheeting on the outside for micro mark. They're paper brick.
Your car shed is foam core?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
It started out as just I was testing the size and it started looking so good. I said, well, I'll just finish it up and use it.
Wow,
Ron,
I like,
did you use black foam core?
Actually, it was white.
Oh, I always use black.
Ryan, I would have used black, but as I say, I would use it as a mock-up to start
Right.
with. And I ended up liking what I was doing. So I went with
Everybody to their own.
yeah.
yeah, I know.
Brian, why do you prefer black?
Because you can paint over it. Black takes anything. It's like scenic, if you go to a play, everything is turned black except for the scenics.
Mhm.
And they want to highlight stuff on stage that is going to be lit up by the lights. And that's the only reason. So I did scenic design down in New York City for about a year and a half. And that was their tricks.
Yeah.
So
I covered others to say all this with micro mark brick paper.
right. Well, I've done that too, but I also made sheets of bricking and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's like, I was doing the movie, I was doing all kinds of stuff. But most of my buildings were basically black foam core, and I would sheathe it with I just dry brush it down. And then you put doors in, windows in, stuff like that.
Right.
I still use them in my holiday layouts. And everybody's like, where the hell did you get all this stuff?
The club story on the top of the round car shed is wood.
Right.
So and the interior's got plastic truss in it.
Yeah. Well, I was doing shingle or roof shingles with like pad paper. You just paint it all, and then you kind of cut it. So it was like you'd take a row and you'd cut,
Blades.
different things, and you kind of glue them onto the top of the roof, and then you
Right.
dry brush that. So it was very effective. And even on the black foam core, you'd paint the white in, you'd scribe it with a pencil, a 2B pencil, a 5B or whatever. But either way, once that thing dried, you just dry brush it down because you'd be scribing in the planks. And I could
Wow.
show you those things, and they always turned out perfectly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you can, send me a couple of pictures of those, Brian. That would be good
Yeah.
to throw in a presentation.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because it does work. Because when I blew up City Point,
Yeah,
Right.
inside was the destroyed building. Outside was the full building before it got destroyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's
Yeah.
like, once you just take off that outer sheath, you've got a blown up building,
Right.
which has been already pre-built.
right. Fascinating. That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Doing that movie created so many damn techniques. I can't even begin to. So
Right. Yeah. So LeBron, what I wanted to know is if you use foam core, how did you replicate brick on the inside of the arch?
I cut a strip and stuck it inside.
Oh, just a strip of, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it was pretty simple to do.
right. Okay. Yeah, I want to, okay. I was going to say, I want to see more of it, but then I'm going to say, No, if I see more of it, then I'm gonna want to change something on what I've got, so I don't want to see it.
But yours is much bigger than mine. I only have half of the cars yet.
Right, right, right.
Well, you know, what I did in the movie was when I created barrels, there were yogurt cups that the kids were drinking, taking to school, and it had the perfect shape of the actual barrel. And so I would do that and then, you know, create the top, put the roping around it, stuff like that. So that, you know, when the Yankees and the Greatcoats are chasing them, those are the barrels on the back of the train that, you know, get knocked off once they, you know, they run into difficulty. So
Right, right, cool. So, anybody get anything interesting for Christmas? That number one you can share publicly, and that number two is reasonably close to something railroad related.
well, I'm doing holiday layout, so everybody loves it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
they go, "Where did you get all this stuff?" I said, "I made it." The only thing I borrow is the New Haven line locomotives that a girl who's a real rail fan, she gives me 4 locomotives to pull the trains around.
Oh, nice.
So they basically pull all my rolling stock from the movie around, you know, my coaches and you know, express trains and stuff like that. So
Right.
everybody goes, "Where do you get these?" I said, "I made them." You know, everything from the truck up is handmade. And I've
Right.
got people in the windows. On one side, it's passengers. And on the other side, it's Yankees going to the front. The Mason-Dixon line.
Ah, that's great.
But they run real nice. They still hold up today.
They what today?
They still hold up today.
Oh, still hold up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah. Cool.
you know, they got celestial windows and stuff like that up on the top. I even created those. So,
Wow.
You ought to do a presentation on how you built those.
yeah, but I don't know. You'd find out. You'd find out.
Okay.
But I always like the celestial windows up on top, so you know they could, you know, you could have light coming in during the daylight hours.
Right. Right.
But the cool thing is having on the acetate, you just paint these people, and then you just stick them, you know, like about, let's say, a 1/4 inch away from the window, and it looks like real people.
Right. Right. Yeah, yeah. It's one of the things when I started populating my passenger cars, I realized, boy, all you need is like 3 or 4 colors tops, and
Right.
don't get it because people can rarely see them anyway.
Speaking of passenger cars, do you guys weather your passenger cars?
Minor weather.
I do it lighter than I do the freight cars, but I do some weathering.
Same here.
So
Same basic techniques?
same basic techniques.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? The real fun of it is just taking a car that because you know it's like even with scenery, you won't destroy it unless you spill something on the damn thing. But to literally just play with experimenting, even different colors on the same car, just to see what you get. I think the fun part is making mistakes because that's when I saw what was possible. Because I was a little bit too anal retentive and wanting to like get certain things just right. And then when I started to just play with it and either flick stuff or what have you, or spit on my finger, I was getting these different effects. So it's a fun way to engage in building something that clearly doesn't take a lot of room. And you know, if you're intending to build a layout or even a diorama, it's a great way to you know, keep moving forward with whatever intention is that you have, especially if you're stuck on something. Like, redoing switches.
Speaking of switches, did Ray come up to your house? Do you get
Oh.
that three-way done?
Yeah, yes. I think he's a little, there's a friend of mine who is like an electrical guru. And I got a three-way stub that I've not been able to figure out how to throw. And he put together with somebody from his club this Arduino mechanism. And it's something that has to be programmed. But the machine itself is about 1/3, if not 1/4 the size of a tortoise. And it's powerful as heck, and it has no problem throwing. But he has to build a board so that it gets all wired. And then, so when he comes back, he's going to bring with him a panel that he's making with 3 buttons. So I'll throw east, center, and west. And he's going to be able to program it. So, if you know anything about stubs, and if you're throwing stubs, you usually have to put a tiny pin, like a piece of brass wire, on the outside of the stock rails, so the fly rails stop. Otherwise, it'll just continue to throw through past the stock rail. Well, you can program this so it stops exactly where you want. There are like 20 different settings, micro settings. And he also has the ability to adjust the speed of how it throws. So if you leave it at its max, it'll just go zip, zip. But if you slow, it'll just like roll like butter off a nice warm bun if you wanted to. It's just so that he's going to be coming back in 2 weeks. So I'm not going to have an op session until that's in. So we got probably end of January, maybe early February. But once that's in, a lot of options. And I fixed another turnout that was messed up. A wire broke out of the decoder, and I fixed that. So everything should be running just fine. Knock on lots of wood.
They say.
Oh,
I don't tell as much about the weathering on this or not.
if you click in under the view, click speaker, you can see LeBron solely in that shot. If you pull that up again, LeBron.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really light weathering on that. Wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
Are your trucks yellow?
Yes.
Do that again, LeBron. Let me see those trucks. Say something so it focuses on you. LeBron, say something.
Okay. Can you the trucks are a mustard color, Tom,
Yeah. Yep. Nice.
and
Jesus, how did you get all those that framing? Are those individual pieces of styrene?
yes,
So do they run the ones that are running horizontal between the windows? Do they go from top to bottom and then you pieced in the long one?
yes.
Let me see once more.
Hey, you see,
So is that a scratch built?
no, it's a Kit Bash Mantua.
Oh boy.
So
Okay.
you put a couple together, right, LeBron?
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I noticed you had 15 windows on that, which means it's got to be longer than a Mantua.
It is.
All right.
Just I took 2 of them.
Beautiful.
With 3 Mantuas, I can get 2 cars.
All
Right.
right.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's see. We'll have layout updates coming this year. clearly from Roger.
Yeah.
Ron, you know, probably in the spring. And Ron, whenever you're ready to share something, that's cool. And then I think, you know, I might do one after we do our next ops session. I thought I already did that. I already did one on ops with you guys. Never mind. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? Anything to toss out? Anything of interest that you've encountered? Alrighty.
I would have to say, Christmas present to myself. I'm not quite sure if we were able to read that.
Wait a minute. Let me go to speaker view. Speak again, Ed.
Sure.
A Queen Post Trust Covered Bridge. Wow.
Yes, it's by Hunter Line. I've actually I've done a plain queen post. I've done this kit as a covered queen post bridge. This one I'm planning on doing what's called a covered truss bridge.
Oh.
So it's sort of like the in between a full covered bridge and a naked bridge by only covering just the trusses themselves.
Whoa.
And I think from my understanding, it's a 2-foot narrow gauge railroad that I guess is now like a heritage railway. They just rebuilt one. And it's one of those things of so I'm going to have basically all 3 versions of a Queen Post bridge, each on a different diorama, because my railroad is not large enough for any streams and all that, but
Right. Is this all narrow gauge?
broad gauge.
Broad gauge.
Yeah.
Cool. Good.
Yeah, is on this, is it like a truss bridge with just a roof on it? Is that what you're saying? I'm trying to understand it.
Only the trusses are covered.
So are you saying, so there's a truss on either side of the tracks?
Yeah, there's like, you know how you have your normal trusses on the side of the bridge.
Yep.
Correct.
Those are covered, but the bridge itself is not. So it looks like 2 wooden walls.
Got it.
Huh.
Wow.
Well,
Never saw one of those, I don't think.
Actually, hold on 1 second. I can show you a picture of one. This is from a book called Vermont Covered Bridges.
Oh,
And all right, not quite sure if you're able to see that. There's a covered bridge, and right next to it,
oh, it's the truss bridge.
there's the covered bridge. And I
Yeah.
think right there is the covered truss bridge. See how it's just like 2 walls?
Yep. Yep, there's a cap over it, yeah.
Yeah, there's a pretty much a cap over it. And from what I understand, it has the lifespan that's a lifespan pretty much like the halfway between an uncovered bridge and a fully covered bridge.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rick Hunter, when I called him up to to see about taking his uncovered bridge and making it a covered truss bridge, he says, no, buy this, the fully covered bridge, and then there's enough wood in here to make it into a covered truss bridge. From my understanding, there are, if my information is correct, there's only 7 left in the United States that are still up.
Right.
Very few, and I think very few are actually still being used. As I said, that 2-foot narrow gauge railroad just refurbished one. So
Neat.
Fun project.
yes.
Good.
And actually, the funny thing is, according to this book, there was a covered truss bridge less than, I want to say less than 5 miles from where I'm living. That, well, when they rebuilt it, they rebuilt it into a normal wooden bridge instead of a covered truss.
Uh-huh.
Currently, right now,
actually stuck on the ground.
from what I've seen, that bridge currently is out of service. I'm not quite sure if they're planning on rebuilding it, but I'm actually half tempted to go and say, it's like, hey, if we're going to rebuild it and all that, make it a covered truss bridge just like it was originally. So,
Right.
and there's none in Vermont. So, and although from what I understand, there are 2 covered railroad bridges in Vermont, but both are out of service. One being used, well, one's sort of kind of in service, but it's being used as a bicycle bridge. And
Yeah,
it looks like it has a cat now.
Yeah. Yeah, a bridge build presentation might be interesting because if I get to it, one of my bridges has got to be converted from a shingled roof to a tin roof. So the roofs were tin, the covered bridges, at least
And
on the W&A, right, Ron?
this way came
LeBron?
this way, came this
What?
way, is now going against.
Well, they might be on the metro. They might send her in, not picking it up.
Would that be the metro then?
Could be. Could
You
be.
might want to put yourself on mute, whoever's talking, because you're bleeding through.
I tried calling and it goes straight into,
No,
Right.
not straight, it doesn't
Let
go
me
straight
hunt
to
this
his
one
heart.
down.
Until I wanted to.
You should be able to mute them. All right.
I
never
did. I did. I found out who it was. I found the culprit. All
All
right.
right, Tom, what was the question?
That the covered bridges over the creeks on the W&A, the roofs were tin,
Right,
not shingled.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of fire.
Right. And of course, none of my friends, some right on this call, ever would have told me that. They just let me go ahead and build it with shingles. What happens when you're in a competitive audience? It's just, the egos win over friendship. It's just what happens.
What did I miss while I was with the NMRA just a minute ago?
We're just getting started.
We have our first SIG presentation next Saturday. I'll send the exact time out when they send me my email Friday and say roughly when I'm supposed to start talking. It'll be on YouTube or on Facebook.
So Joel, this won't be live. It'll be recorded for us to see, correct?
It will be live. It will be
Oh.
live on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, please make sure you send the group the link or whatever we need. That would be great.
Yeah, it's in NMRA. It's more the time. All you do is in YouTube, go to the NMRA channel, and the top one will be the current stream.
And
But I'll
what's the
tell you
date?
the time in Central Texas time that'll be on. It's stuff that you probably all know. I'm talking to folks about how to research and how to observe the photographs and the
Right,
paper. I'm trying to get, this is how you get started.
right.
And then I'm going to refer to you guys a little bit. And if you guys want to show, and then there'll be a breakout room.
Oh,
It's
cool.
open to everybody, not just NMRA members.
And what's the date, Joel?
Next Saturday week.
Oh, week from Saturday. Okay. 14.
Yeah,
Great.
week from this Saturday. It'll be Saturday. It's
Yeah.
The NMRA runs an 8-hour block of clinics once a month.
Cool. Oh my gosh. All right. I'll check that out. Thank you, man.
And and if I can do an NMRA report now, they're going to be setting up a Discord server for the special interest groups.
A
What's
what
that?
server?
A Discord. Discord is the thing, it's a new series of chat rooms, but NMRA is setting up regions and special interest groups so that when we're doing things, we can post to the Discord server and talk to everybody in the NMRA worldwide and
Whoa,
say we have something scheduled.
whoa.
Will
Yeah,
they be able to interact like we are here on Zoom?
Discord is messages.
It's all
Okay.
it's all
But-
text based.
We have, but we can attract interested railroaders globally to our group, or folks that are interested in learning something about it, which is one of our, I think, 508 goals is,
Yeah,
as a kindly, as an educational group.
right. Andy,
Uh,
that's mostly chat stuff, right?
It's
yeah.
all yeah, it's all text based, and I'm actually on it already. The Civil War Special Interest Group, American Civil War Special Railroad Special Interest Group is already set up on the Discord. If you're an NMRA member, they're rolling it out slowly. The NMRA Discord channel has been up since last year. They're just group by group, they're expanding it. So I know the Northeast region is on there. So if you're on there already, you can join.
Okay, that sounds cool. Wow. That's great, Joel. Thanks for doing this, man. This is super.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to, it's existing technology. I've heard about it. It was just another piece of technology I have to go learn how to use.
Right. Right.
And I'm becoming an anorak as I get older. I'm trying to find how to make a in-scale real steam locomotive with a little guy that chunks the wood in.
Okay.
That's a joke, folks.
Right. Good. Good.
Okay.
I'm glad to hear that.
So that's my report from the NMR. Okay.
Excellent. Good report. I'm going to be checking that out.
And we're going to mine some of these real soon, and I'll try to get those in the NMRA publication, just so folks know about us.
Yeah, exactly.
And for those of you who would like to come hang out with me in Dallas later this year, I'd be glad to have you come to the convention.
What's the date on that one?
I'll put all of that out shortly because I'm going to do an NMRA thing to email to everybody.
Awesome.
Instead of the one where the blast, our stock blast, I was going to add some stuff to it about things that are going on as to why it could be fun.
Yeah.
And I'll put in the link for it's real simple. You just go to the NMRA page in the convention and it pops up with the dates and the hotel. And I'm bringing my RV, so I'm going to be across the street in the trailer park.
Camping out in style. That's great.
That's right. I'll be hanging out in my little casita.
Yeah. Cool. Good.
Yeah,
All
if you
right.
think it's living in style, my casita is 17 feet long. No, it just has a well-stocked fridge and a stove.
That's all you need, and a place to put your head. That's good.
The dates for those that are interested are August 20th to the 26th. And I am registered and I hope to be, assuming my health allows, helping out with the SIG room. So
Awesome. That's
We're
great.
glad
Well,
to see. Oh,
that's the Dallas one in August, right?
Yep.
Good.
yes, they're not even calling it a national convention, they're calling it an international convention. So
Oh,
It's at a pretty fancy hotel too.
Well, I might have to make it to that one.
It's the fancy hotel that made me bring my RV.
How many is your RV sleep?
3,
2?
3.
3, okay.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi, and then somebody can sleep on the kitchen table.
Okay, that's a nice offer. Thank you. Good. I'll think about it. That's good. Cool. Good. All right, guys. Well, any final comment or anything? All right.
Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
LeBron.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Good to
Silly
see you.
question. How many people are going to Amherst the end of the month?
I am.
Andy's going. Dan Free is going. I think that's it from our group.
DC and Tom.
George Bogatuk, I think, will be up there too from Soundtracks. Yeah. So we'll see you guys there. All right, gentlemen. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next time. All the
All right.
best.
Good luck,
Thank
Tom.
you, everyone.
All right,
Nice night.